I believe in reincarnation, obviously, for myself, because personally, I mean, like, there's things like you see child prodigies, you know, they'll be like 1 or 2 and they already know how to play a piano like they were doing their entire life. How did this happen? Mm-hmm. You know, you see people, you know, I could even say, even for myself, when I was younger, I was already thinking. I remember when I was just like a baby, like a kid, I was like 6 months to even to a year, I was thinking and stuff like that. And I remember I was bored. And I remember the first time I walked, and I remember just all the time just thinking like, hey, what was I doing before I was here? What was I doing before? I forgot something, but I don't know what it is. You know how you forgot something? Like you're looking for something, but you forgot it, and you know you were doing something else, but you don't remember what it was. Mm-hmm. So for the longest time, for when I was a kid, up till I was 8 years old, my father passed, I was just walking around like, oh man, like, how did I get here? What was I doing before? How am I here? And people were just like, oh, he's just shy. And I'm like, I'm not shy. I just don't understand what the heck's going on. I'm a little bit confused about everything. Who is everybody? How did these people get here? Where was I before? I feel like I was doing something before. And, you know, frankly, you know, I was thinking like I was already aware of things before people had to tell me those things, you know. I was already aware of things, and I used to have even like dreams, you know, reoccurring dreams of me being another person all the time when I was a kid, you know. And so it was like, I don't know, it's interesting. And just like you know, I have, you know, my father's family, a couple of them play like instruments, but like when I was little, I just picked up guitar and, you know, drums and stuff like that, and I just started playing them, and my mom would just look and like, well, maybe because his father knows how to play them, he just pick it up. And I'm like, but he was passed, so I never was taught by him. But you never know, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you know how we also refer to certain children as having old souls, right? Like my younger daughter, we say that about her all the time.
I was called that.
Yeah. I mean,
old people.
What you're describing, exactly. That you just see it in these kids that they just seem a little bit more either wiser or introspective or insightful than you would expect of their age. And I don't know, maybe it's an example of the many lives that they have already lived, you know, coming into this one. And there's just nuggets of those lives and the lessons that they learned and everything that they're carrying into this lifetime as well.
Yeah, I believe that life is an experience. You know, it's not about a journey. It's not about a destination. It's an experience, and it's an experience that's collectively, it touches everyone simultaneously. And I believe also that people do come back, but I believe that time on the other side is not relevant. There is no time. There's no end. There's no beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think that's hard for us to fathom as humans, because it's like we live on a plane or dimension where time is relevant. But on another dimension where time is, you know, it's nothing. That is hard to understand. How does that connect here and here? And then you start looking at, you know, scientists where they're discovering, you know, duplicate galaxies supposedly that are, you know, identical to ours, you know, that are thousands and thousands of light years apart. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Oh, I mean, have you seen the images of the newest telescope, like the newest space images?
I saw some other ones recently about like this duplication of a galaxy, and I was just like, that's pretty awesome. But I don't know.
It might be related, but there is a like $10 billion telescope that had been under development for many years, and the sort of earliest batch of photographs were recently released, and it is, you know, sharper images of space than we've ever had before, as well as like, you know, further views than we've ever been able to have before. And it's looking at pictures like those where you realize that we are like we as, you know, not just Earth, but like our entire solar system is a speck of the broader universe that's out there. It really puts into, you know, question, like, how do we think about the scope of our life and the scope of our impact? And as you think about, you know, talk about time, it's like, well, what is time when like millions of light years away, there's this like potential parallel, you know, world that's living. It's, I don't know, a lot of philosophical, potentially unanswerable questions, but it can get overwhelming to think that, are we so nothing in the grand, like vast emptiness of space, or it can be, well, who we are and the life we're living is the experience that we're having now and day in and day out, and what are we going to make of that experience? And when I spoke of legacy and being remembered, it's not necessarily on some broad scale where we have statues built of us and revered for generations to come. It might just be impact on the handful of people that are in our family or in our network of friends, and just knowing that we've tried to leave the world a little bit of a better place than it was when we came into it, even if it's in that small circle of friends and family that we're interacting with.
Yeah, that's true too. But I think like things are so complex. It's so complex that there's a lot of things there that people really don't understand. And I think even within things like reincarnation, it's like you're not going to remember everything. And if you do go through life remembering every life, then I would think that you're just, you can spend your time mourning about your previous. The people that you were in love with, the people that you met, the relationships that you had, the children that you had. Mm-hmm. And if you don't see those people in this plane, right, it could be kind of depressing because now you're thinking about, man, because you know now your life of now, right? For example, let's play that game. Your life now, you have kids, you have a husband, and it's like, imagine not even remembering any of those people and then being in a total different life later. And then remembering your kids, your husband, and it's like, holy crap.
Oh, it'd be so overwhelming. I assume it's a coping mechanism to not remember all of that, because like you're saying, that would just be so emotionally overwhelming to suddenly miss all of these different family members that one had in a past life, or the relationships or the losses that they had experienced. At the same time, I had gone to a sort of wellness, well-being resort that had different classes that you could sign up for, and different instructors and spiritual healers and things like that. And one of the classes I myself hadn't participated in, but some friends had, was called Past Life Regressions. And it was a sort of meditative but almost hypnotic state that the instructor would guide you through and put you in, to the extent that, as she claims, you would actually have visions and memories from your past life. And the people that had participated in this had such differing responses and reactions, to what we were talking about. I think for some people it was very difficult, emotionally challenging to go through that, because maybe it was reminding them of something, or they were seeing something. They don't necessarily remember going through it, but they were seeing something that now suddenly brought a layer of grief or sadness to it that they will now remember, even though it's almost like this out-of-body experience, right? Observing it from an outsider's perspective. And yet there were others who saw experiences or situations in their hypnotic state that they felt actually helped them better understand who they are today. Whether it was like an irrational fear of flying, or a fear of kind of being trapped, right? Or positive things, right? Like the desire to always help people and heal people, right? And one very good friend of mine had done it, and she is such a loving soul and spirit, always smiling and wanting to help others. And she had gone through this past life regression and had visions of being a healer in, generations ago. And so there can be something that's helps us understand who we are, but it's not like we can pick and choose what that experience could look like. And so we have no idea of knowing how it might impact us.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it can get really deep when you start digging into things. And so that's why like a lot of things like I don't agree with is like, I don't want to say that I don't agree with, but I'm not so much of an advocate for, and that's more like, you know, arranged marriages or, you know, any type of thing of like you hear people say, like, my soulmate. And I'm like, dude, what's the chances your soulmate looks just like fucking you? What's the chances of that? I don't believe that's going to happen. Like, come on. Like, seriously? Like, is it that calculated? I don't think it is. You know, I mean, that's just like, I don't know. Could it be? Yeah. But like the likelihood, you know, like you will hear stories about people who have supposedly reincarnated into, like, you know, it was maybe a sister and she had a child, her brother died. And then the son starts talking about, hey, I died like this and I hit a tree and this guy did it. And then they find out there was a guy who really did it, and they found out, and he knows like the clues of how it happened, and he explains it to the officer, and now they can arrest him. Even though it was another kid in the Middle East who had basically been, I think it was in Syria, if I'm correct. He basically had told his parents, you know, and relatives that there was a man, he was such and such, and he was another man that lived in another area, and he was murdered by I think it was a brother or somebody, etc. And he went, and they were like, "What are you talking about? Yeah, come on, what's this? Is he okay?" Like, and he knew exactly where this place was, and he told him vivid things about it. And he went and spoke to the lady who was previously his mother, and told her, "Hey, look, this is me. This is who I was," and explained these vivid details to her. And he said, "You know, this person killed me with this blunt object." And they ended up finding out the guy supposedly who did it ended up killing himself because of fear. Like, how would he know this? Because how did he know I was the person who did this and explain this? So he